Once upon a time, in the vibrant village of Abatta, there lived a woman named Ayabo. In this village, a woman's beauty was often judged by her size. The slimmer a woman was, the more she was admired by the men. Ayabo, a curvy and plus-sized lady, had been known for her roundness since childhood. Unlike many girls in her age group, she had always been fuller-figured, but in her youth it had never been a problem. However, as she grew older, her eating habits became uncontrollable. No portion of food was too much for her, and she would often clear her plate in no time. It wasn't long before Ayabo became the largest woman in Abatta. As Ayabo's body size increased, the men of the village began to turn away from her. They would no longer admire her or consider her for marriage. One by one, all of Ayabo's friends were married off, leaving her behind, growing older with each passing year. Ayabo's father, Mr. Adesoji, was a caring man, and his concern for his daughter grew. He had seen all his younger daughters marry and move away, while Ayabo remained single with no suitor in sight. The pain weighed heavily on Mr. Adesoji's heart. As a loving father, he took it upon himself to find a husband for his daughter before it was too late. One day, Mr. Adesoji learned that Akimi, the son of one of his old friends, had returned to Abatta after spending many years in the city. Akimi was looking to marry, and Mr. Adesoji saw an opportunity to find Ayabo a husband. Excitedly, Mr. Adesoji arranged for Akimi to meet Ayabo, hoping that he might find something to love in her. Ayabo too was overjoyed at the news. Could this finally be her chance to marry, just like her friends and sisters? The night before Akimi's visit, Ayabo spent hours dressing and grooming herself. She was determined to look her best. The next day, Akimi arrived at Mr. Adesoji's compound. However, as soon as he laid eyes on Ayabo's large frame, his face fell, filled with disappointment. "This is not the woman I imagined," Akimi said with a look of disgust. "I cannot marry her." He turned away without another word, leaving the compound. Ayabo stood there, heartbroken. All the joy she had felt moments ago vanished, replaced by a deep sadness. She locked herself in her room, crying for days. "I am too ugly, no man will ever want me," she sobbed over and over again. After days of isolating herself and feeling hopeless, Ayabo realized she could no longer stay hidden away in despair. There had to be a way out, she thought. She knew exactly where to turn the powerful river goddess. Ayabo left her house and walked through the village, eventually reaching the river. Taking a deep breath, she called out in a loud voice, "Great river goddess, please hear my call. I am in need of your assistance." As if summoned by her words, the river began to bubble, and out from the water emerged a stunning woman with skin that shimmered like the blue sky. It was the river goddess herself. "Tell me, young one, what do you seek?" the river goddess asked, her voice gentle but powerful. Ayabo knelt before her, tears streaming down her face. "Please, great goddess, make me slim and beautiful like the other women my age. All the men in the village have rejected me because of my size. All my friends are married, and I am still alone. Please, help me find a husband." The river goddess looked at Ayabo with sympathy. "My dear, you are beautiful just as you are. You must learn to love yourself, no matter what others think. However, I will grant your request. By the next market day, a man will come to you and love you. just as you are." Ayabo listened intently, but something in her heart hardened. She wanted more than just a husband. She wanted to make the men who had rejected her suffer. She wanted revenge. "I want all the men who humiliated me to pay for their cruelty," Ayabo said with a dark determination. "I want them to suffer as I have." The river goddess was silent for a moment before replying, "It is done. Your wish is granted." The next morning, the village of Abatta was in complete chaos. When the men woke up, they were horrified to discover that their manhood had completely vanished. They rushed to consult the village's wise Juju Priest, who was renowned for his mystical abilities and knowledge of the spirit world. After a deep consultation with his oracle, he came forward with an unsettling revelation. "It is Ayabo, the heavy woman whom you once ridiculed," the Juju Priest announced gravely. "She has used dark magic to take your manhoods. She has taken this from you as an act of revenge for the years of humiliation and rejection she endured. All of you who once mocked her, who cast her aside for her size, are now victims of her curse. You have lost your manhood because you failed to see the worth in her." The men were stunned. Shocked gasps echoed through the crowd as they tried to come to grips with the severity of the situation. The Juju Priest's words weighed heavily on their hearts. There was no denying the painful truth. Though they had once looked down on Ayabo, they had underestimated the power of her pain. Now, it had returned to haunt them. The Juju Priest's voice echoed with authority. "The only way to restore your lost manhood is to seek her out, to lie with her. You must give her what she demands, and only then will your virility be restored. This is the price for your cruelty." The men hung their heads in shame. The weight of their pride and arrogance bore down on them. They had once laughed at Ayabo, calling her the mountain of a woman, but now they were desperate. With no other option, they began to line up by one outside Ayabo's house. Ayabo, now aware of the course she had placed on the men, was filled with a sense of dark satisfaction. She had finally gotten her revenge. Every man who had rejected her, every man who had humiliated her, would now be forced to endure the very they had done to her. She had become the most powerful woman in the village, desired and feared by all. As each man entered her home, his eyes widened in disbelief. Despite their initial repulsion at her size, Ayabo seemed to have an irresistible power over them. Once they entered her heart, they were overwhelmed by a force beyond comprehension. Her mere presence made their bodies crave her, and they found themselves unable to control their desires. It was as if a spell had been cast over them, and they could no longer resist. What Ayabo had unknowingly unlocked was a force of magic so potent that it rendered the men powerless in the face of it. When with her, they felt strong, energetic, and full of life. But as soon as they attempted to lie with their wives or any other women in the village, they found themselves utterly impotent. Their bodies would not respond, and their virility was gone. It was a cruel twist of fate, a reflection of the very torment they had subjected her to all these years. The men, once filled with pride and self-assurance, now struggled with an overwhelming sense of helplessness. Their once robust egos had been shattered. They had sought to degrade Ayabo, but now they were the ones in torment, caught in her web of power and vengeance. For Ayabo, This was more than just a victory. It was a vindication. She reveled in the attention and adoration of the men. For the first time in her life, she felt wanted, seen, and appreciated. The same men who had called her fat and unattractive were now powerless before her, unable to tear themselves away. She could feel their desire, and it intoxicated her. But as the days went by, the men's frustration and suffering grew. Their wives, desperate to regain their husbands' affection and attention, tried every means to lure them away from Ayabo's spell. They attempted to cook the best meals, wear their most beautiful clothes, and even threatened to leave. But nothing worked. The men were ensnared in Ayabo's grasp, and their desire for her seemed to only grow stronger. Finally, the wives, now desperate beyond measure, sought the counsel of the Juju Priest once more. They gathered together, pleading for his help. "Please, help us break the spell," they begged. "Our families are falling apart, and we cannot bear to see our husbands so consumed by this woman." The Juju Priest, moved by their distress, consulted his oracle once again. After what felt like an eternity, he finally spoke. "There is a way to break the spell," he said. "You must retrieve a special substance, one that possesses ancient magic. Use it to encircle Ayabo's heart, and she will fall into a deep slumber. Then recite the counterspell that I will teach you. This will restore your husbands to you." The wives, holding on to hope, took the substance from the Juju Priest and learned the counterspell. That very night, as the men once again found themselves drawn to Ayabo's home, the wives put their plan into motion. With stealth and precision, they applied the magic around Ayabo's heart. The men, still entranced, lay next to Ayabo, unaware of the trap being set around them. As the wives chanted the counterspell, the air grew thick with anticipation. Ayabo, who had once felt invincible, now found herself slipping into a deep, unyielding sleep. The men, suddenly waking from their trance, looked around in confusion, realizing what they had done. They had been slaves to their desires, trapped in a spell they could neither control nor understand. In the end, it was a powerful reminder to Ayabo and the entire village that revenge and bitterness, no matter how justified they may seem, ultimately lead to destruction. Though Ayabo had sought power and recognition, she had lost something far more valuable: the chance at a true, loving marriage, the chance at healing, and the opportunity for peace within herself. If you are just joining my channel for the first time and have not subscribed, please help to subscribe. Like and share this channel, as this act of love would encourage us to write and create more engaging stories for your view. We appreciate that and love you for doing that.